Hello, hello. It's Mark Reed here once again for your viewing pleasure, and I'm here again with my good friend Atheist Junior. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, really well, really well. My wrist is still a bit sore, but I think I'll be up to par in a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, that's good. That's really good because I have missed typing a lot. I type a lot, like a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of things I do with my right hand that I have missed. That is a joke, by the
Yeah,
way.
you beat me to it.
Mm, had to get in fast. I knew that's where you'd go. I know you too well. So today we're running through one of the most terrible people on the internet, and his views are shockingly abysmal. And you found this again. I don't know why you have an what I would fondly call an idiot magnet, but you seem to be able to find these people completely. So maybe you can tell us what we're going to be doing today, what we are critiquing, and what to expect.
Yes, but I will only do it if you get us out of this horrible camera angle thing. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, there
It
we
was
go.
too close. It was just too
I'm
close.
sorry. Look, I've made it perfectly clear I've got no idea what I'm doing. So when you're producing for me, you can be
Okay,
critical.
it's just nobody needs my face that close. So
I disagree.
this channel is called A Bit of Orange. Now, I originally found this channel because Professor Stick did a response video to him, and they kind of did a back and forth of making videos about each other. This guy is a young Earth creationist. He is a sort of Hovind acolyte. He's made videos with Eric Hovind, and he's actually done a video with Kent Hovind over Skype as well. And he makes a lot of the same arguments, but he's definitely got his own flavor of things. Like he does animations,
Yeah.
which are they look interesting, but the information in the videos is really bad. But when it comes to like his actual website, his blog, that's where he puts the really nasty stuff. The guy has a lot of opinions that are really racist, anti-Black Lives Matter articles, transphobic. He's pro-life to the extreme, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So I think what I noticed is that he sort of, his brand is kind of, I'm really friendly and really, I'm your friend who's going to give you the truth kind of thing. It's very sort of very friendly and sort of like he's a really cuddly, sweet guy. And then you read this stuff and it's like, wow, he is not friendly at all. No.
Yeah, like he has one of the articles I've read that is him just talking about gay marriage and stuff. He acknowledges the fact that he says, I'm about to say something and I don't know how to say this in a PG-13 way. And he says, gay men rape each other in the butthole.
Oh, okay.
That's
if you can't say it in a PG-13 way, maybe you shouldn't be saying it at all.
Yeah, so that's a direct quote too.
Yeah, but it is something that a Hovind disciple would certainly say.
And I will admit, out of context, that I think that's a hilarious sentence. But within the context of that really hateful article, it's not funny.
Right. Yeah. He's trying to say that it all happens like this, which is just horrendous. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll put the article back up, and we can start. So let's get into it. And this is just one of the articles, because I have a different one in front of me as well.
What's the title of that one?
Oh, you're going to love this. Pro-choice is pro-rape.
Yeah. See, he loves to throw that word around. Yeah. So I think we can start with this one because it's relatively short.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's another flow chart, even though it's not a chart, it's just text. But I guess a flow chart can work without it. It doesn't have to have an image, but we did a flow chart in our last video, if you remember. the atheism, agnosticism flowchart, which was very bad. So, all right. So the abortion flowchart, the case from science. I don't know what it is with this guy and capitalizing words randomly. Really don't understand that. So
Well, the main thing that jumped out at me at this article is there was no actual flowchart. You know, a flowchart is a very specific thing. It's a chart of boxes with lines that you can make a logical, yes, no, and it flows onto.
yeah.
There is no flowchart. Like, where's the flowchart I was promised?
Yeah, it's when you ask a question in a flowchart, you're supposed to be able to answer yes and no to the question. But yeah, I'm just gonna start reading this, and then we'll go from there. So, oops. Oh, my Standing for Truth book fell off my shelf. That's probably a bad omen. I'm serious. Okay, what is abortion? What is not? The pro-life position is that abortion is the murder of a human being. But is this true? No. The pro-choice side argues that a woman should be able to decide what happens to her own body, that a fetus is merely a mass of cells, and that contraception is a woman's right, that she should be able to choose if she reproduces or not. Let's look at some of the basic facts of biology and genetics to understand what can be said about abortion based on medical and biological facts.
Right.
So right at the bat, I think we should just get it out of the way and say that there are more people than just women who get abortions. Trans men have uteruses or uteri, I guess, and they can also get pregnant, which means they might need an abortion at some point. That does happen.
Well, I think that's what he's kind of getting at when he says, can men get abortions? No, men do not have uteruses and cannot get, he's basically using that opportunity to be a transphobe in the middle of his argument, which, this has nothing to do with trans rights issues, but, he's going to step in there and be a prick about it anyway. Let's face it.
Yeah. So, can any woman get an abortion? No, only pregnant women can get an abortion. Thus, abortion is not a form of contraception. It does not stop a pregnancy from happening. It terminates a pregnancy which already has occurred. I feel like if you say a pregnancy has already occurred, that would indicate that the baby was already born, or that the woman is no longer pregnant.
If it does not stop a pregnancy from happening, it terminates a pregnancy which has already occurred. Well, yeah. So basically, I think he's taking aim at the morning after pill. So if he believes that life begins at conception kind of thing, like at the start of the pregnancy, he's basically saying the morning after pill is an abortion, which, technically, scientifically, you could say that it is, but I don't think we would count it in the same realm as, what would be a, actual abortion.
Yeah. Well, I think... yeah, I think, it's called like a medication abortion. I guess yeah. And this is sort of just getting into a semantic argument, but
sure.
So what is pregnancy? When a fetus is in the woman's uterus, living or dead? Living. Thus, abortion is the removal of a still living fetus from a woman's uterus. So this is something that the pro-life side loves to do, is where they conflate fetus, which is an offspring of a human in the stages of prenatal development that follow the embryo stage, in humans taken as beginning 8 weeks after conception. So the development begins as a zygote, and then you have an embryo, and then later on it's classified as a fetus.
Becomes a fetus, yeah. So, but that may be true in some cases, and we'll get onto that later, which is sort of medically necessary abortions, late stage ones due to medical complications. We will get onto that later. Sometimes that has to happen, and it's not up for debate. It is sometimes that has to happen, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, he's basically already saying, well, it's a fetus, when no, it's an embryo, usually at the stage where you're removing it. It's progressed beyond the zygote stage, and it is just an embryo.
Yeah, and Maya in the comments makes a good point that she says, all right, we're all the women busy. And yes, me and Mark are both men commenting on this issue, but I think that it is important for people who are allies of the pro-choice movement to make comments about this too. But I think that issue is more important when it comes to lawmakers being all men. I think that's bullshit. But when it comes to discussions like this, I think it's okay to have.
Yeah, well, I mean, if a woman wants to come on and
Sure.
talk about it, I'm more than happy. If Maya's out there, if you want to come on, I am absolutely. I'd be stoked if you would. You're right. We probably should get some women on here. Would be a good idea, I think.
I don't know.
So-
have you talked to a woman before? Because I don't know. I find it very frightening.
Only my wife. This was kind of done really like we only decided to do this like an hour ago, kind of thing. So it was very, very late stage. So I do apologize. You are right, Maya. I just it was one of the things I kind of overlooked, I must admit. But if you want to come on and give us some support and give us your opinion, I'm more than happy. Maya, do you wanna do that?
I mean, can you could put the comment on the screen? I think they just added another one.
Yeah. All atheist shows I've seen on abortion when men discussing women is nothing. Sure. Yeah. Come along. I really would like that. I think that yeah, you're absolutely right. A woman's opinion on it would be absolutely fantastic. If I can just work out what I'm doing, of course.
So I'll just keep reading this while I guess you're going to add the link.
Yeah.
So
so that's the link for Maya.
Yeah. So while you're right that that can happen. I think a large percentage of medical abortions are going to happen before it's in this stage. Late-term abortions are very rare. In my video I did about Aaron Ra that was talking about the heartbeat bill, which was passed by my governor here in Texas, that Texas lawmakers, because that bill bans abortions after 6 weeks. But Texas abortion providers said that 85% of abortions happened before that time period.
Wild Heart, that was for Maya, mate. That link was for Maya.
Or anybody or any woman.
Any woman at all. Yeah. Just, somebody with a uterus and yeah. So I do apologize. I'm really sorry it's not an open mic today. We might open it up later if you feel like it, AJ. I do apologize.
Sure.
I'm really sorry it's not an open mic today. Oh, what a lovely voice that is. What a gorgeous voice that is. Hi, Maya. How you doing? You're with us? You're against us? You're indifferent. Amazing.
Yeah, I think just if you go in your stream in the settings on StreamYard.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. So sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're
yeah, now
fine.
It's fine.
No, I couldn't hear you, and I'm just like, wait. So sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine. There's no problem.
Yeah, and I like to give people shit, and I think that I want to put my ire perhaps on where it should lie. The women in this community need to step it up. So I just got in from work, like I just finished dinner, and I'm like, well, I guess I should put my money where my mouth is, because I've been bitching about this quite a lot. Because, well, one, I know the men in this community know women streamers. I do welcome the conversation from men. We need men, especially straight white men, because you seem to be the only people that the bigots listen to. We need you on side. So very, very important that you're having these conversations, that you're being persuasive, that you are dismantling these bullshit arguments. I'm sorry, Mark, can I cuss on your channel?
Yeah, go for it. I don't care.
I'm sorry. It's abortion, so I'm going to try not to drop any F-bombs. No, I mean, and I appreciate allies, just because, and usually, I am the ally, especially in the trans fight, and well, really LGBT issues, and there are things that I don't really understand, but I do champion other people's right to be who they are and to live their own life. And, you know, same with abortion. I hope I haven't entered menopause yet, but my youngest just turned 21. He's in college. I really hope I'm past my childbearing years and that I can just be an ally and an advocate for women who are, you know, still looking to keep their choices and to, you know, if they're either want to in the future, maybe, I don't know, or what do you call it? Don't, you know, or, you know, they absolutely do. It affects, you know, most women. It would affect me. Like if we go past this to the point where we're no longer allowed to have birth control, which they're talking about in the United States, it would directly affect me. And,
Sure.
you know, so it's, and it affects men. It does affect men. And to say that abortion doesn't affect men is BS. Because this is, you know, it's 100% my responsibility. It's 100% your responsibility, right?
Sure.
We all have our roles to play. So I would never say that men shouldn't have an opinion on abortion because it does directly affect men. My issue, and I'll stop rambling very quickly so we can get on with the show, is that I know for a fact that there are men in this community who are having these conversations that know women streamers in the community that they're not reaching out to. And that's part of the problem.
It's a valid complaint, and I feel kind of embarrassed because you know, I kind of, it didn't even cross my mind when we read this article. I got to admit, AJ sort of showed it to me, and I was like, holy crap, we should do a stream on this. You're absolutely right. We should be reaching out to women that either would have been affected by it in the past or you know, may be affected by it in the future, and sort of include them in the dialogue. Absolutely. No, you're 100% right, May. I do sincerely apologize, and I apologize to everybody out there if we didn't include you when, yeah, I do get that sort of two guys talking about, you know, sort of women's rights is pretty it's pretty limited in scope and from perspective. So I do get that. I really do.
No. I mean, it's not limited. The male perspective is, you know, a third, I guess. I mean, because you have to, you know, there's women and, you know, there's the doctors. I think the doctors, you know, male or female, should, you know, certainly have a say in this. And then there's also the men who, you know, are also, you know, the recipients of the fallout of this. So I'm not saying that men shouldn't be having these conversations. I love seeing that men are so passionate and care so much about the situation, because you could just be like, well, you know, if I get a woman pregnant, I mean, you know, really it's up to her. I could just like skedaddle and not make it my problem, or I don't care enough to see it as a man's issue. I mean, all problems. However, a huge part of women's problem with this is that we are being talked about from men who don't have, a lot of them just don't have a stake in it. You know, they're, you know, 60, 70 plus, making moral pronouncements on how other people should live their lives, and this is not going to affect them. And so, you know, we already feel belittled, but what is that when you're like, not necessarily condescended, but like infantilized? Yeah, I think it's infantilized, you know, by these congressmen. And, you know, then to see it from your allies too, where it's like, oh, we're going to talk about the women because, you know, we should have a say. Yes, you should have a say. But I think it's important to, you know, just like I wouldn't, when Juneteenth became a holiday, a number of white streamers reached out to me and other, you know, Black members of the community and said, hey, I would like you to be on the show, because they understood the absurdity of talking about Black issues from a white perspective. And 100%, Black issues affect white people. I was so happy to see that they were recognizing, an extremely small victory for us, but that they cared enough to see, to understand that it was an issue and it was something that affected us, on a grander scale. But it just didn't occur to them to have a conversation without a Black person. And that's kind of what I would like to see from the men in the community, that, this is huge for women. And, maybe we should have a seat at the table, even when we're having, these small conversations.
Sure. No, I completely agree, which is why I love that you joined us here. It does. It is a lot better that we have, your perspective and certainly anybody else who sort of has a uterus and womb that this bill would directly affect is a really good idea to talk to them. So I hope you feel really welcome, Maya, and I want to ask, so what's your, were you watching what we've been through already? Do you want to maybe just reset here and go from the start kind of thing? Would that be best, or do you want to just continue?
Yeah, because I was watching Bree stream, and then I saw that you were streaming. You're one of my favorite streamers. I really do love your content.
Oh, thank you.
And then, of course, as being a little catty in the side chat, like I do.
Oh,
but if you wanted to do a small recap.
No. Okay, so basically, it's a bit of Orange, who's a awful person who AJ found and we sort of want to talk about.
Are they a streamer?
They're a
content creator.
Yeah, they're a YouTuber. They make pre-recorded videos sometimes about evolution, mostly.
Think Hovind, but sort of less fans, basically.
Yeah.
So fringe Hovind, basically. So
oh, goodness.
Yeah. So this is their blog, basically.
Okay.
And it's got some truly horrendous ideas. So brace yourself. Trigger warning for everybody. This might be some pretty tepid stuff coming out here. But basically, he's arguing that he's arguing from a pro-life stance. So basically, if we could say, so the abortion flowchart, sort of there is no flowchart. He didn't put a flowchart in it, so I'm not sure why he's saying it's a flowchart. The case from science, which is just hilarious from a pro-life, creationist, sort of says. The pro-choice side argues that a woman should be able to decide what happens to her own body, that the fetus is merely massive cells and that contraception is a woman's right, that she should be able to choose if she reproduces or not. Let's look at some of the basic facts of biology and genetics to understand what can be said about abortion based on medical and biological facts. Do you want to make a rough guess how many medical and biological facts you're going to get in this article, Maya?
I would say it's probably on par with the number of flowcharts in the article.
Yep, I would say about the same.
Yeah. He says, he's talking about the pro-choice side argues that a woman should be able to choose if she reproduces or not. By implication, he's saying that he thinks that women should not be able to make that choice.
Yes, that is exactly what he's saying. Women, we are baby-making machines. And I believe it says that in the Bible, like our salvation comes through our ability to procreate. I can't remember the exact verse, but it's something like that. And this is that kind of limited mentality where, women must have a place and, it's in the kitchen, obviously. And then there's the men. So the evangelical understanding, it's very much the white men must run things, all the things. And if you're not white and a man, then you are relegated to, all positions that support said person.
So the passage is 1 Timothy 2:15. Yet she, meaning the woman, will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith and love and holiness with self-control.
Oh, is that in there, or did you just find that while I was talking?
Oh, I just found that while you were talking.
Oh, you're good. Yes, that is exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So
What verse is that?
First Timothy 2:15.
Thank you. I will not remember that, but I do appreciate you for saying it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. My Google foo is very good. It's very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really do think that is the position that they're taking. Even though they're sort of, this is the case from science, not a lot of science coming through.
Right.
The next heading is, can men get abortions? No, but men do not have uteruses and cannot get pregnant. Only women can get abortions. So,
I mean, to say that an abortion doesn't, I mean, and you guys can probably talk better to this than me. If a woman has an abortion and the man cares about the woman and their situation, and I've seen abortions affect men just as deeply as it does women.
sure. Sometimes,
and I mean,
even
yeah,
more.
it's not the physical process that you're going through, but the emotional process can be just as deep. And to say that men, yeah, sure, well, I mean, unless you're a trans man.
I think that's what they're getting at.
Oh,
Like
bigotry.
trans women can't get abortions because they don't have the necessary thing. You know, I think it's a sort of anti-trans dog whistle.
Yeah, you know what? That should have been my go-to.
Yeah, we were talking about that a second ago. I don't know if he intended that, but he definitely has trans articles on his site, and he has some really bad takes about Black Lives Matter and Ferguson and all that stuff too. Really articles about that, and it's just like
staunch Fox News viewer, I see. Yeah.
And also, it's like, how inappropriate is it for a man to be making this article too? If it's just like, it's one thing for us to be talking about it, but this guy, you know what I mean? He didn't. I'm pretty sure he didn't consult any women on their perspective when he wrote this shitty article either, and which I think.
No, why would he talk to a side character? You know,
an NPC.
Right, exactly.
NPC, yeah. Can any woman get an abortion? No, only pregnant women can get an abortion. Thus, abortion is not a form of contraception. It does not stop pregnancy from happening. It terminates a pregnancy which already occurred. So he's making a distinction between contraception, which prevents the conception of the child, or of the zygote, with something like the morning after pill, right? Which he's trying to say that is a form of abortion because the conception has already happened.
You know,
I hate the way that this is. That question is worded.
Yeah. But it's kind of interesting because I think maybe without realizing it, this question, you could answer it in a different way, because there are women in third world countries who wouldn't even have access to this, because it says, can a woman get an abortion? And that implies going to a medical facility to get one. Well, there are people in developing countries where they don't even have that option, not because it's not legal, but because they don't have that option to have it done in a medical facility. And when that happens, or when you make it illegal, abortions are still going to happen. They're just going to be done at home in dangerous methods that get people killed.
And that's a problem. That's been a problem in the past when abortions have been illegal. These sort of backyard abortions kind of thing, which are just they're incredibly risky, and it's I don't know. It's not really a reason to make them legal, but it certainly is a factor that, you know, these laws, they don't really stop abortions, they just stop legal abortions.
Right. It's a reason not to make it illegal, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
And I wish the pro-life side would sort of realize that, or maybe they do know it and they just don't acknowledge it. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's a weird way that they look at women. It's a very degrading way. You know, it's like only drunken sluts would want to have abortions, or you're just really, you know, this selfish, liberal,
irresponsible.
Yes. And, you know, they don't I actually had to learn about why, because I grew up Catholic in the Catholic Church, and it's very much, the same thing,
Yeah.
And it just never occurred to me that an abortion and a miscarriage would be the same procedure.
Yes.
It never occurred to me that there would be women that, honest and truly, with all their heart, wanted to have a baby and can't. And their fetus is killing them and they have to. And this is painful. And they are forced into this position, and that the number of women that are faced with this, like a day doesn't go by that, many women aren't faced with this, in the world. And it's just like, no. Sometimes, you're stupid, or sometimes you just don't care, or, sometimes, you don't feel like you need birth control because abortion's legal, which really isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like I've known a couple of girls who had multiple abortions, and it was still always the last resort.
Right.
I don't know anybody who is just like, no, round dog me, dude. Like, abortion's legal. Why not? Like, nobody does this.
Right. It's a straw man. It's just a parody of what's happening.
But
it's
no, that's
usually
like the first thing that comes to their mind when they think about people who have abortions.
Well, they want to make it a moral issue, which I don't think it should be. I think it's a medical issue, but they want to imply that anybody who would want to get this procedure or has gotten it is, like you said, promiscuous. And that's the tricky part about when you have such a large percentage of, and talking about Americans, but people who are opposed to abortion and lawmakers, and who are fighting to try and make it illegal, the other side has to, when we have to argue for it, it's hard because then they're able to sort of make us look bad, because when you argue for it, they can frame it as, oh, well, you just want to have this on demand, and you want to have it, like, women want to be able to just get as many as they want. And it's like, it's not arguing for that. It's just us trying to make sure that it actually stays legal, and you have to fight for it. Otherwise, because the other side is so passionate that they're not going to stop. So that's kind of the hard part about arguing for being pro-choice. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had to have a lot of these conversations. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't cut you off, did I?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I've had to have a couple of these conversations on Twitter, and you can't win a pro-abortion stance with them regardless of your stance. So for like me, I was raised Catholic, and there is a part of me that still believes, like, well, even if it's a mistake, and I don't believe that sex is consent to pregnancy. And I would never force my beliefs onto someone else. I honestly do believe it's immoral to legislate abortions. This is a decision that has to be between a woman, her partner, and her doctor. But for me personally, I feel like it's, I still have that old Catholic part of me where it's just like, well, this is a human being. Why wouldn't you bring it into the world if you have the means? And which I put my money where my mouth is twice. I was a single mom. Both of my children came at really inconvenient times for me. And I had so many people throwing money at me to have an abortion, promising me like cars and, college tuition. It's just obscene. And I'm like, no, I want my baby. Like, I don't know. It was really weird that you would put a child into Catholic school and, have all these thoughts like projected onto them, and then say, oh, well, fuck that. I need you to do the opposite here because I don't want you to do this thing. And I made a choice, but I can't place that onto, I come from an affluent family. I had choices to make. And not every teenage girl has that choice. I've man worked in an adolescent substance abuse facility where 14-year-old girls were coming after abortions because their mothers were making them have sex with their drug dealers in exchange for, these are women and girls who, whose choices are being stripped from them.
Yeah.
To see the things that I've had to see working nonprofits in Baltimore City, you just be a moral monster to keep a pro. I don't know. I call it pro-life or pro-death stance. But it is. It's insane. You can't legislate morality. Certainly not for medical procedures.
Well, I think that's sort of related to what I was talking about a second ago. Just the fact that they named their organization pro-life, by implication, that does mean that the other side is pro-death, which I don't think that they are. If they were, then we wouldn't care about the mother dying. We would just say, well, that doesn't matter. But
well, I mean, it's interesting that they're not for universal health care, and they usually support the death penalty and all of these kinds of things. So if they were pro-life, they would take a consistent stance and sort of be for universal health care, free health care for everybody, because that is something that would prevent deaths.
Free insulin.
The left is definitely the pro-life stance. Pro-choice is a pro-life stance. Everything they do is pro-death. They're pro-guns. They're pro. I wouldn't penalty. They're anti. They don't believe that children should have free lunch at school. But the child should sit there very still, pay attention. Even if their parents are too poor to pay for their school lunch, you just sit there, starve, and learn and be good. This is their stance. If you talk to them, if you actually have the one-on-ones, and again, just Twitter, but I have these one-on-ones with them, and I'm like, you're not even pro-life, you're just anti-abortion, and they'll say, well,
anti-choice, So I think that's much more accurate.
No, when I say you're anti-abortion, and they're like, well, yeah, they don't even, they won't mask it. The pro-life is this propaganda that they hide behind. They don't, when you talk to them one-on-one, they don't pretend that they care about life. They care about the baby until it comes out.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Once it's born, they don't care about it. Its welfare. They want to eliminate all social programs that help people who are disadvantaged, and they don't want.
I wouldn't
have sex education either.
I wouldn't lump everybody into that. There's still, people who believe in sort of legislating against abortions that still do good work in the community and things like that. I wouldn't lump everybody in. So I just want to say we're sort of talking generally.
I'm talking about evangelicals specifically.
Sure.
And that them as a broad group, I feel more comfortable generalizing. I'm not talking about all Christians. I want to make that very clear. Not talking about all Christians. And even when you look at Muslims, Jews, certainly Hindus, Buddhists, any Eastern religion, they're all pro-choice. And in America, at least, obviously in the Middle East, you have the Muslims that have abortion bans. But in America, Jews, Muslims, they all tend to lean pro-choice within the same numbers, I think 60-40 or 70-30, whatever it is, as the rest of Americans. So
I must admit I'm not that familiar with sort of the American outlook of it, I must admit.
I'm not really sure. I know that you guys are more liberal than we are, but so even the Conservative Party over here, traditionally they've supported abortion rights. In fact, it's something they're very stringent on, because they are more like the Democrats than the Republicans, but that is changing slowly. They sort of
there's sort of a wing of that party which is very religious and very evangelical, and where that came from, who knows?
So it's sort of the opposite in America, and especially in Texas. We do have this sort of brand of religious evangelical conservatives, and they don't have consistent positions because they want to argue for small government and say, hands off my property, hands off my gun. I don't want the government interfering and stopping me from doing what I want. But when it comes to the women in their life and them having autonomy over their own body, which should be more important than any possession or home that you have, then they don't care, and they want to legislate it. They want to, try and fight for bans and, term limits and all this stuff. In this last midterm election, it was a big issue in like Florida and other states, I think like Michigan and I forget the name of the governor.
Was it Kansas, I think was one.
Yeah.
And Tennessee, I think it was Tennessee. Kentucky?
Probably.
I think it was Kentucky.
Southern states. Marco Rubio, a senator. I watched a debate with him and his opponent, and he got really destroyed on the abortion issue, but he kept arguing that, she won't give an answer about what hard term limit she would support. And she kept saying that I'm not going to give an answer because you can't make a limit that applies to every person who's going to get this done, because it should be between a woman and her doctor. And I agreed with most of what she said, and I thought she made him look really dumb.
Well, but yeah, there's no safe week in pregnancies.
Right.
I mean, like things have made like a sudden turn for the worst at every stage of life imaginable. And to put, it's one thing if you're just like, all right, you have 12 weeks to figure out if you want the baby or not, and, get it together, which I don't agree with for other reasons I won't get into right now. But like to say, okay, there's going to be a point at which you can never have the procedure regardless of what's going on. At that point, you're just saying, okay, well, after this, we don't care if you, mother, die.
Sorry, what's the abortion limit over there?
Depends on the state you live in.
Yeah, it depends on the state. That's why we were talking about how in Texas, my horrible governor, Greg Abbott, passed something called a heartbeat bill, which is a 6-week ban on abortion after 6 weeks. And the argument that they make is that at 6 weeks is when you can detect a heartbeat, and which is, I guess, technically true, but it's just like a small flicker you can see on an ultrasound. It's not like the infant has a fully formed heart yet. And again, most women don't know that they're even pregnant at that point, which I think is intentional.
So for comparison, Australia, it's up to 22 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ours I think has been under Roe and Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. That was it. KCB, Planned Parenthood, I think was the one where it defined it up to 20 weeks, but or viability is the point of viability, which is around 20 weeks right now. But it could have gone back, as modern medicine advanced. So we never really had a hard and fast. It was just kind of up to medical science when a woman's rights ended. But the thing with it was, because there wasn't the state oversight, it allowed women to be able to terminate their pregnancies later when, if, something went wrong. And that's really the thing. Like, I don't care if you say, like I think was it Germany has a really small week number on it, but like when you look at the law, it actually says, well, unless the mother says that she can't mentally take care of a baby, or unless the doctor, she and the doctor agree that it's not in her best interest to continue the pregnancy for pretty much any reason. So, I mean, it's more or less what we had in America before all of this.
12 weeks in Germany.
Huh? 12? Yeah.
12 weeks.
Yeah, and I think another important thing to note is that at 21 weeks, this is before the fetus has developed nerve endings, and thusly they can't feel pain.
Right.
So there's been some scientific papers published about this where they say that it's not until the third trimester, which starts at 27 weeks. And I think Pew Research says that like something like 95% of abortions happen before the 21-week mark. But
I mean, and the thing is, like, I mean, I know they have nerves, like they're starting to form in the first trimester, which, you know, I mean, I want to say it's unfortunate, but again, the rest of us have to die with nerve endings. So, like, you know, everybody else has fully functional feelings when they have to die, and you know, it doesn't stop them from, you know, trying to find creative ways to kill a death row inmate because, you know, Europe thinks we're so barbaric that they won't give us the drugs to lethally kill prisoners. So like a lot of, well, the few death row, states that allow
capital punishment.
Capital punishment. Thank you. Are going towards like really let's say creative. I say that with the /S. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm so mad about this. We're going back to like shooting, like the firing squads, the electric chambers. Yeah,
that's really
yeah. And if you look into the reason we stopped, like we used to do all these things, we stopped doing them for a reason. One state has brought back the gas chamber. It is just so crazy the lengths we will go to kill. We lied to the entire country and told them that COVID was a Democrat hoax, so a guy could maintain power longer, and 1 million people died. They do not care about life, and you know, to say, "Oh, the poor babies."
You didn't care about life when there was a pandemic happening. Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's
and that's like when we're talking about like the whole pro-life and what is a fetus and, you know, the rights of babies. I mean, first of all, a fetus is not an American citizen. Its mother is. You are not an American citizen until you are born. That is in our Constitution. We are legislating for the rights of non-citizens over citizens. This is fucked.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's valid, but I think that sort of nationality shouldn't determine your rights, kind of thing. I think that there is a problem with sort of saying, hey, we can treat people from, you know, Mexico however we want because they're not US citizens, kind of.
No. I'm not saying we get to treat them however we want. The rights of a citizen should take precedent over the rights of a non-citizen. That's all I'm saying.
I think that yeah, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. I just think that the sort of even non-citizens, if you're using that as an argument by itself, they should have rights.
And they do have the right to life.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could make an argument that because the baby is as part of the body of the mother because it's attached to the bloodstream, if it counts as being a citizen too. I'm not saying that's true. I just was thinking
maybe we should build a wall across the vagina, and then that would solve the problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's build
a big, beautiful wall. Build across the pelvis.
A big dam.
Keep out all the immigrants.
I think
you don't have to kill them.
I think part of it is just that babies are cute, and so they care about that because, yeah, like you said, oh, look at the babies, but if
I don't think so.
Then,
I think it's a religious position. I think it is the go forth and multiply thing. It sort of violates religious beliefs and their emotive sort of feelings kind of thing. But it is an argument from, all right, well, let's continue onwards.
I'm sorry. But there is, just really quick, there is,
Sure.
since you said that, I will say it and then we'll move on because I know I'm taking up so much time yakking. No, there's a couple of things that's going on, and it's all racism. And the whole, what do you call it? The conspiracy where like they're coming. Great replacement. Thank you. I'm sorry.
What is that?
Just came off. Oh, man, I remember when I didn't know about the Great Replacement. AJ, do you want to take it away?
Am I going to regret finding out about the Great Replacement? Is that what's
well? I mean, it sort of resulted in somebody getting run over by a car, but I don't. Oh. No, you won't regret it. It's just it's a conspiracy theory that's basically saying that the Democrats and leftists and their supporters are encouraging people who are non-white to immigrate into the United States, into Europe, in order to change the demographics and make white people a minority. And then we can vote them out.
We're going to push them out. We're going to you. I don't know, white people. Yeah, like we're going to take your jobs, and I don't know. Like we're going to have white slaves. I really don't know what the most fear-mongering thing is right now. Yeah. But yeah, they're worried about their power.
Immigrants are going to come in and force us to take care of our people. Oh no, the dread and horror. What the hell? All right.
Yeah, well, so what they're really trying to do is force white women to have more white babies, and that's what's stopping. Stopping abortions, because at one point in time, most of the abortions were being done by white women. But for the non-white women who are having abortions, the doctors are really taking care of a lot of them, because much higher mortality rates for a non-white woman than a woman of color. For a woman of color than a white woman. And then there's just other things they can do to kind of keep us at bay. So a lot of it is over policing, and a lot of it is redlining. And I know redlining is now illegal, but it's still functional, where you push certain people into certain areas and then strip those areas of their resources. And what happens then, not only are they like disadvantaged from like a health perspective, and it makes it easier to, over police when they're all in one place. Those areas are also have shorter life expectancy rates. So, it's just a number of things that they're doing to fuck with, I'm sorry. I said I was going to try to minimize F-bombs, but no, we're truly evil over here. And a lot of us, even Black people, a lot of educating Black people, we don't see what's going on because it's not taught in schools. And so Black people think that, the rhetoric is obvious. It's like, oh, well, Black people don't want to do better, or, we're not as good as the white people. We buy into the BS because, if all you know is what you see and what you hear, and we're not taught anything different. And it's not intuitive. Like you wouldn't think to go out and find the information. These are all things that I had to hear from listening to people more educated than me, and going down rabbit trails. But I'm sorry, you wanted to get back into the.
Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna pick up where I left off, I guess.
Yeah, go for it, AJ.
Okay, so what is a fetus? It is a mass of cells. Does this definition work? A tumor is a mass of cells. Is a fetus a tumor? No. Is there any living thing on Earth, excluding microbes for obvious reasons, that is not a mass of cells, including the woman who is getting the abortion? No, thus this definition fails. So this is, again, this is just like a shitty semantic argument. So like, yeah, a fully formed human is a mass of cells, but obviously when they say, and again, what is a fetus? It is massive cells. They're talking about, when pro-choice people say that it's a mass of cells, they're talking about within the first few weeks, where it's like a blastopore, or it's like,
an embryo,
divided
even.
into 4 cells, or an embryo. They're not
Yeah,
talking
and it is
about
literally a
fetal
massive cells. That is
Yeah.
an accurate definition for it. Just because other things are also a mass of cells and they are different doesn't mean that the description a massive cells doesn't apply to that as well. Like, it does apply to it.
I think
And I think calling a human being a mass of cells is a little bit reductionist. I think that there's other traits that somebody has to be human.
Well, I think you can use this same logic and say, well, what is a zebra? A zebra is an animal. A human is an animal.
No, it's a mass of cells. Weren't
Is
you
a
paying
human a
attention?
zebra? No.
No, it's a mass of cells. Weren't you paying attention? A tree's a
Oh,
mass
okay.
of cells. Like, everything living is a mass of cells. But I don't see you picketing and sort of, in front of forestry places saying save the trees. That's life as well. So you're not pro-life, you're anti-abortion. Let's be clear about this.
You can still be a mass of cells after you die, right? You're just dead cells.
Yeah.
I think you're not acknowledging dead people's rights, Mark. So you need to work on that.
Yeah, I'm anti-death. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't support that at all.
It's funny you say that, but there's actually like a death positive movement of feminism that I've seen on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Look, I must admit.
Movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that. Because I do support stuff like euthanasia and the certain cases and things like that. So I do support that kind of thing. So
yeah, I don't want to get us derailed though.
No, the definition doesn't fail.
I didn't want to ask because I know it's going to derail us, but I'm just like, they're not talking about euthanasia, are they?
No, it's more just like being. It's just about being open to talking about death in a positive way, being prepared for it, like preparing a will and stuff, not thinking, oh, I don't want to think about that. I don't even want to because it's too morbid. Well, that's a bad thing because really bad things happen if somebody dies and doesn't have a will. It's just like, and exploring different types of things, and also like green burial, like not using formaldehyde, burying people in ways that are better for the environment, just stuff like that.
Okay. No, I'm very familiar with that movement. I didn't know it was called death positive, but interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's stop derailing.
What is a fetus? It is a developing zygote. What is a zygote? It is a fetus at an earlier stage of development. So this definition also fails to explain what a fetus is.
Well, yeah, your definition fails.
Who found this definition?
He made it up.
He made it up. It is a developing zygote. No. It's a later stage.
Yeah, it's like, what is a butterfly? It's a developing caterpillar. Or maybe I had that backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
What is that's right. What is a butterfly? It's a developing caterpillar.
A caterpillar is a butterfly at an earlier stage of development.
So this definition also fails to explain what a fetus is. Look, maybe we should
really
get
shocked.
You want me to switch the article?
No, that's fine. An offspring of a human or other mammal in the stages of parental development that follow the embryo stage, in humans taken as beginning 8 weeks after conception. So there's definitions to these things. They're not like, we've got no idea what it is. It's a developing zygote. No, it's not. It follows the embryo stage. So it's zygote, embryo, then fetus. So your ignorance doesn't mean that the definitions that we are using, especially medical definitions, are wrong. It's just you're ignorant of the definition.
Wait,
yeah, it's also circular, what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is it's a developed zygote, like one that has developed already. And what is a zygote? it is a fetus at an earlier stage of development. Well, I mean,
that's a tautology.
That's not really, well, it's not really accurate, because you're sort of saying, well, it's still a fetus. It's just a fetus at early, well, kind of, but it's more an earlier stage of a pregnancy or a, you know, it's a really weird way to put it, though.
Well, I really feel like he's being deliberately obtuse for a reason. I mean, because it's not like you can't just put fetus definition in a Google search and come up with a better definition than this.
I mean, I just did it, you know.
Just saying, right? I mean, because the last time I checked, these were separated by weeks. You know, once you get to this week, it's, you know, it's this. And once you get to this, it's this. And it follows a very clear and concise path. And, you know, up until the point of birth, at which point you have a newborn. And then once you get up to, you know, you have newborn, toddler, child, preteen, teenage. I mean, what? It's really, he's making this difficult. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Is there a reason? I mean, it can't just be I'm stupid, right?
No, I think he wants to say, hey, reject all of these scientific definitions of a fetus and accept my definition that it's a baby.
Oh, that would make sense.
Right.
What is an embryo? A baby. What's a fetus? A baby.
A baby. What's a zygote? A baby. It's all just a baby. Just because it's not a baby yet doesn't mean it's not a baby.
Clumps of cells, aka baby.
Yeah.
Old dead guy baby.
A sperm is a baby.
And to segue to what are the biological differences between a baby and a fetus? Heartbeat and brain waves? No. The heart starts beating by week 5 before most women know they are pregnant. Brain waves are detectable within the next week. I don't think that's true. Can we get a fact check on Bit of Orange here? Skeletal and cardiopulmonary system? No. An unborn fetus has these too. Yeah, an unborn fetus does have bones and maybe a heartbeat. But week 5,
ability to has all these things. Death row inmates. Where's the save lives on that? God.
Yeah, that is a tu quo quo fallacy, though. You're sort of saying you're doing it too. It's
no. It's so ridiculous. Well, we care about this because it's a human life. You don't. You know, I mean, he's doing all of these things to say, oh, this is a person, this is a human. We should care about it. And I bet if I look at any of these other things, it's just gonna be like, no, I don't care. I care about this because I'm told to care about this, and in a different context, I don't care about any of these things.
Yeah, so apparently sort of the nervous system is developing kind of thing at 5 weeks. The heart's forming, but it's not a true heart.
That's what I was saying earlier, yeah.
Yeah, a simple tube-like structure. It's not really a heart, and it's got some of the blood vessels. And blood is beginning to circulate, but it's not like there's only the foundations of organisms, and it's only like 2 millimeters long. It's not what you're trying to suggest it is.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, a blastopore has, or a zygote has a blastopore when it's like just like 2 weeks old. I think that's a butthole, so it has a butthole. Who cares? Like, it has these things. Yeah, it's because it's developing. But I think pointing out like, oh, well, it has this at this week. It's just irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, it's an appeal to emotion. And when you study the brain, like, honestly, the brain, even as a newborn, there's nothing to develop. It is sitting in a really dark, pitch black place. There's no stimulation. It is inside a woman's stomach. Like there's, I'm not saying that there's not brain waves, but like there's no stimulus. There's nothing to react to. You can't get, there's not learning.
Well, it doesn't have a brain. That's the thing. Like these sort of, what he's talking about with brain waves are simple nerve sort of, it's not real. Like, it doesn't even have a brain at that point. So the whole idea
is what point you're of gestation you're talking about. I mean, but even when we have a detectable brain and brain waves, like it's still, there's no, I don't know. For me personally, it always goes back to personhood. And I'm not saying that you get personhood as soon as you come out of the canal, but like what, I mean, okay, you have a brain. Okay. I don't understand your fingers and toes. Why does one matter more than the other?
Well, the title of the section is saying what are the biological differences between a baby and a fetus, but the way he words it, the answers is really weird because he just says like heartbeat and brain waves. No, okay, you're saying that both of them have that because a fully like a baby that's like 9 months old, they're gonna have a fully formed heart. But one at 5 weeks, they have like you can detect a flicker of that they call a heartbeat. It's technically true, and it's going to develop it, but you can't conflate that as being a fully formed heart. You know, and that's what he's doing here. He's conflating the earliest stages with just a fully formed baby. That's the whole argument he's making here.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, and it's very what do you call it? But with things that are meant to like kind of pull at your heartstrings, to say it has a brain and a heart. Like I said, it also has fingers and toes. So I mean, like, and you know, let's just, you know, go full out. Let's just say it has everything. Everything's, you know, being formed.
It has shins.
Yeah. I mean, it has a head, it has a neck. Like, I mean, what?
It's their emotional appeals. That's what it is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's what I mean.
And then he goes on to like, can men get abortions? Which he already covered. He'd already done this dog whistle once.
This article repeats a bunch of times. It's really weird. I don't know.
Is that to make it look longer?
Yeah, I think
maybe. So. It's possible. So that we've read that before.
I know. It's like, it's weird.
What is a fetus? We went through that before. What are the differences?
How many times is going to ask that? Are they the same answer?
Yeah. It's like he copy and pasted it. Okay, here we go.
Why?
Now it's not. I don't know why it's like that.
Why would you write a blog like this in the first place? That's the real question.
Because you're evil.
Evil.
A zygote, fetus, and baby are all the same thing, just as baby, toddler, tween, teen, and adult are.
No, they're not the same thing.
Yeah,
they're very different stages of development.
And interestingly enough, that like teenagers and adults have different rights as well. Like you have the right to consume alcohol as an adult or vote as an adult, and you don't have that right as a teenager. So thanks for pointing out where you're completely wrong.
Or age of consent also.
Correct. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things we have for people of different ages. So well done for pointing that out. But really, you think a baby and an adult are the same thing?
Okay, then let's have a baby drive him to work then tomorrow.
Sure.
Wait, why not? Same thing.
Sure. Yeah. You know, I think there's some, employment laws that would be broken if you tried to employ a baby. I don't know. I mean, boss baby was a thing. I don't know what the labor laws are like over there, but I'm pretty sure that a baby and a adult are not the same thing. What an absolute moron. If an unborn baby fetus is alive, so there's where you're having, the conflation. He wants it to be a baby. No matter what stage it's at, it's a baby. What does it mean to be alive? Living things display certain characteristics that may be absent from material objects. Well, I mean, material objects? You mean non-organic things, maybe? Because everything's material. Whatever.
But everything's alive. The sperm and the egg are alive.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just noticed too, I think I missed this, that he's actually saying that a zygote and an adult are the same thing. If you
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I didn't even notice that. But
because if a zygote, fetus, and baby are all the same thing, and the baby's the same as an adult, then that means the zygote's the same as a baby, which is the same as an adult.
Right.
Which means that, so forget the baby driving into work. We should get the zygote to drive into work.
Don't give Republicans any ideas.
No,
they will do that. We have to fight to keep kids out of factories. It's horrible.
So Mrs. Gren is like, so he's putting living things as movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. I don't see many fetuses reproducing. I don't see that. All living things do this, including single-celled. I mean, if you're talking
You
cell
can't do any of
division,
this outside
maybe.
of the mother's body. I
What's
can't do any of these things autonomously.
Right.
So
According to medical science and the biological difference in life, it is a human living thing from the moment of conception. Moment of conception, yes. Well, it's a living thing.
No. That is medical science does not believe that.
No.
And actually, depending on the field, you're going to get different definitions. Because again, the sperm and the egg are alive. You go to a fertility clinic, they can tell you like if this is viable or not. Like we're alive before, we start growing into, what we're going to look like now. So, I mean, to say that, life begins here, it's not. You have two living things coming together, which is, I guess, more of a Catholic perspective. Like when you're like, no, God wants us, you're not supposed to prevent, da 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 da. So I'm like, well, why not just always fuck? I'm sorry, but I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm spending 8 hours a day at work when I could be making a baby. I mean, it's just crazy things that religion does to people. And trying to get to fields of science, they're always like saying, I really want to pull up like different fields and like look at it, because like science does, I can't think of any field of science that's just like, yeah, life begins at the moment of conception. I don't.
No, none do. Yeah.
Well,
I can't think of any field
that says
that
life begins at erection. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you have ejaculation towards an egg, and the woman's ovulating, there's an egg over in fallopian tubes, then yeah, technically you can say that. I don't know, you started the trajectory if nothing else. But to say that it's, I don't even know how you define that, a life. Because everything's always alive. You can't, like, we don't have life from non-life at this point.
Well, I mean, there's bacteria in my gut that's alive.
No. We're talking about abortions here. Humans.
Okay.
Everything's alive.
Sure.
Always.
It's alive. I mean, I don't really see what his point is.
His point is baby. Must make women have baby. That's his point. Women don't get to have a say in their own lives. We have no autonomy. We have to do what the man says. Make baby. That's his point.
Is it fully formed? Is it fully human from the moment of conception?
No, it's just human and alive.
Yeah. I don't know what he means by fully human. So he's sort of saying, it's fully human.
Oh, I didn't see that.
This means that from the moment of conception, a human is not only fully human, but a unique human being distinct from his or her own mother.
This next part is hilarious. This is
it's not distinct from his own mother.
Yeah, read the next part, Mark, because this part is so funny to me.
Is a fetus ever part of his or her mother's body? No. Once the egg is fertilized, it is no longer part of the mother's body and becomes a unique living human being. It is not part of any of the biological systems of the mother's body and is treated as a foreign object by her own immune system.
That is bullshit.
That is bullshit.
That is total bullshit.
They share bloodstream.
Yes and no. Mine does. I am Rh negative, so my body have to have a lot of drugs to keep my body from fighting me and my children who have Rh positive blood. But typically, no. The body, like your nutrient, I eat. It goes to my baby. We're all just one big unit. If I stop breathing, baby stops breathing. Baby can't live without mom. It's not separate.
I can actually give an example of this because my mom, when I was born, my mom, she is a diabetic. And when I was born, because her insulin levels were so high, once I got separated from her, basically her body, I basically, my insulin levels dropped, and it was like a dangerous situation. Like they had to give me insulin right after I was born, just because.
Were you born diabetic?
I'm not, but she is.
Okay.
I'm probably at risk for it because of
definitely
hereditary inheritance. But yeah, that I think it's just an example of how wrong he is. I mean, saying a fertilized egg is a living human being. I mean, if you're defining human being as, somebody who is like up and walking around, or existing, I think it would be like somebody who's already been born, at least.
Yeah, and I think you're ascribing personhood at that point. But I mean, his point is like, no, once the sperm meets the egg, it's a completely separate person. It's just patently false. Like with my daughter, I had to take extra iron because my body was, apparently I'm just on the brink of being like low iron, like dangerously low. And so when I had my daughter, all my iron was like being pulled from me and going to her. But it wasn't the iron. We noticed the iron because I was deficient, but it's all of my nutrients. My body was taking my nutrients to give to her. In any food I have, anything I drink, there's a reason that pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol. Like I said, like if I die, the baby's not, it'll live for a little bit, but it's not just going to stay there. For half the pregnancy, it can't exist outside of my body. So to say that, oh no, it's a completely separate person. No, we're a little ecosystem here. It's just false. And if it were true, then immediately after conception, I should be able to take what is it at that point? Embryo? No. Zygote? I'm forgetting stuff. But I should be able to take it's a fertilized egg. I should be able to take the fertilized egg, set it out, should walk around, feed itself, breathe.
Thrive.
Because we're not separate, completely separate. Doesn't need me.
Yeah, and antibodies are also passed from the mother to the child. That just shows that through the placenta. So that just shows that it is part of the immune system, because the baby is going to have immunities that the mother has. It's called passive immunity. That's also why, things happen because of things the mother does, like you said, drinking or using drugs. The baby is going to be affected by it exactly the same, and they're going to be born with those addictions. It's really unfortunate, but it happens because they are sharing the same biological systems.
Well, I think I can kind of see what he's kind of trying to get at, because basically what happens is during conception, a sort of pathway is turned off so that the immune system cannot attack the fetus kind of thing, or the embryo. I think, but he's trying to make it as, it's a foreign object, so it's got to be its own individual person, and that's just not true. It is 100% reliant on the mother, and the whole point is that the immune system doesn't treat it as a foreign object. That's what the system is designed to do. It's designed to ignore and basically say, hey, it is the same as the mother, and that's what the key pathway do. It turns off the ability to treat it as a foreign object, and so the immune system doesn't attack it.
And I don't know if you see, Pitan, I'm so glad you're here. I would like to respond to his comment. I mean, if you guys think it's okay.
Yeah, sure. Which comment?
So it says, daddies need to step up and take care of mommies, and mommies need to stop aborting babies because they're inconvenient. So that's kind of in line with the statement that I was making earlier.
Yeah.
I would like to point out first and foremost that an abortion procedure is a D&C for the first trimester, which is the same procedure that is used when women have miscarriages. About 10 to 20% of known pregnancies end in miscarriage. So, I mean, that's, if you don't like the problem that we're having in America is that people want to ban the procedure. So we're talking about 10 to 20% of pregnancies that need the abortion procedure, just for the woman to be okay and to have more children in the future. I think that, you know, we need to dispel the myth that abortions are only one thing. Miscarriages are abortions. They are treated exactly like abortions, and you cannot tell the difference between an abortion and a miscarriage, because the procedures are exactly the same within the first trimester. And again, over 70% of women who miscarry already have children at home, in America. Again, not speaking for everyone all over the world. I can only speak for America. That means that there's probably dads at home that, you know, are having these conversations with the women. What should we do to support our family? And sometimes the answer just is abortion. Many times, contraception fails. None of them are 100%. And I mean, gosh, I could just go through so many different scenarios over why a woman would want to have an abortion. But at the end of the day, what we know works, what we've seen with the literature and even in other countries that have tried these things out, banning abortion does not help prevent abortions. What does is giving people livable wages, giving people, providing affordable childcare, programs such as food stamps, WIC, programs such as Medicare for All, supporting families, gives people the resources they need to make the decisions to keep their babies. And again, this isn't something that drunken sluts do because they were careless. Abortions occur because families cannot afford the more children. So if you do other things, they will make the decision to keep the child. We know this. We've seen this. So I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think there's a myriad of reasons. What I'm really annoyed at is sort of this whole idea that it's just because they're inconvenient kind of thing. Somebody may not be at a stage of their life where they feel they can care for a child. And sort of it's like, we'll have it and then put it up for adoption, which doesn't really solve the problem either. But your whole thing of just minimizing it to, oh, well, you just think it's inconvenient is I'm really sorry, P-Town, it's bloody ignorant, mate. There's medical reasons why people do it. There's personal reasons why people do it. There's mental health reasons why people do it. There's all kinds of reasons. Like, so just because you are in the thing of, well, everyone that gets an abortion is just lazy or inconvenient or just, you know, irresponsible is, no, I'm really sorry, mate. It's bloody stupid. It's just basically taking a shot at the women who are getting abortions. Like I just, I'm really sorry, but
it's just painting them as being immoral, which is what I mentioned earlier, and it's just like, well, that's an individual issue, and that's a straw man argument. The issue is whether or not it should be available, if it should be legal. Not getting into, well, but what if people are doing it for the wrong reasons? Well, again, it's not up to you. It's between them and their doctor.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then if that's something that really bothers you, though, then you should. And now he's saying, well, it's a dumb decision, and he believes it's wrong to abort, and it kills a child, and it's not good for the mom's mental health. One, that it's not good for a mother's mental health is, I mean, I don't know any studies that support that.
There's no studies. That's his opinion.
I can't, again, I'm saying it's a hard decision for a mother to make. And yeah, she'll probably be,
Yes.
I mean, I say probably. It's most likely that she'll be bummed out, especially if it was a decision that she wanted to have. She'll get over it. She's not going to need medication, or she's not going to have mental health issues. To say it's bad for the mom's mental health makes it sound like women are having mental health issues and, numbers great enough to be like statistically significant directly because they had an abortion. And I haven't seen any studies on that at all. I mean, I've looked. So
nobody wants to have one,
Right.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to say mom's not going to be bummed out. I lost my dad, the man that raised me, was bummed out for quite a while. But,
sure.
I didn't have any mental health issues.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between grief and, say, acute depression caused by something, right? So these cases where an abortion is sought and carried out, then yeah, you're going to have a negative reaction from it, because it's not a pleasant procedure. It's not something that people do lightly, aside from what you're sort of claiming, Pete. People don't do it lightly. They don't go, well, yeah, let's just go in there on the weekend and, do this. It's a serious medical procedure that people do very reluctantly. Yeah. And this whole charge to paint it as, oh, people will just be irresponsible, do it all the time. That is not what's happening out there. And quite frankly, I don't see it any of your business why they're doing it. Like, you don't need to know. Like AJ said, it's between them and their doctor. It's none of your business.
Yeah, unless that's your partner, and that's for you and them to discuss and with the doctor, or with a center like Planned Parenthood, or any medical procedure or surgery is going to have risks. That's just something that goes along with it. But I can guarantee you, I don't know about mental health, but I can guarantee you that when it comes to the at-home abortions, those are going to cause health problems, and probably mental health problems too. That's much worse. And again, abortions are always going to happen. The issue is whether or not they should be legal and safe, or if people are going to take them into their own hands. And so that's the way I feel about it. It's just, if they're going to happen anyway, then they should be done in the most safe and careful way possible to minimize harm and risk.
So, Peter, because it's not the right time in their life does not necessarily mean it's just inconvenient. If someone is suffering from acute, severe, and chronic depression, that's not just inconvenient having a baby. That's potentially their life destroyed. This isn't like, when I say not the right time in my life, I'm not saying, hey, they're just a bit irked they got pregnant. Like, you're just taking exactly what you want from what I said. What if somebody is single, depressed, they have no support structures, that there's no way they can get support structures, the government won't give them support structures, and they don't feel that they can take care of that infant at all? What if they feel like they will not be able to go through the pregnancy, and they're depressed, and they would rather end their life, for instance? That isn't inconvenient. You've got a really weird idea of what inconvenient means, because it sounds like to me what you're saying is that unless they are like dying on their deathbed, they have to have this baby. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, considering I think it's like 60% of abortions are to women, like poor women, like at or below the poverty line. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, well, she should just have the baby, and because because otherwise it'll be inconvenient, which is intolerable to P-Town. I don't mean to sound as condescending as I feel, but it's like, okay, well, it's not just like, okay, well, I'm walking around now, or I could be walking around pregnant, and it's the same difference. No, I'm taking off a lot of time from work to go to these different doctor's appointments. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of energy out of you. Your job performance declines. have to, like, you may or may not have the money even to go to the doctor. And certainly, like, at minimum, you're going to be out of work for 6 weeks following. And when we're talking about people at or below the poverty line, they don't have, the time. A lot of the times these people don't have the co-pays just for the doctor's office. And you're like, oh, well, have a baby, add an extra mouth to the house, take 6 weeks off work. Like, this is insanely inconvenient. And you're just like, oh, well, and you're acting like it's like, I'm a grandmother who doesn't want to watch my grandkids, so my daughter can have a night off. It's not the same thing. And I mean, we're also talking about, like, and if you look at the areas in the United States that have had the most restricted access to abortions, there are also a lot of the most impoverished places, a lot of the places with the highest child abuse rates, with the lowest education rates, high child poverty. What are you forcing this child to be born into?
Well, that's all well and good, but unless P-Town is supporting mothers who are, in that situation and helping them, and being there for people with postnatal depression and things like that, you probably shouldn't be telling them to do or not do anything. I think that unless you're there to pick up the pieces, then forcing somebody to do something is not a good idea.
Yeah, and it's like I said earlier, I don't believe abortions are the moral thing. So when faced with the decision, I did not have one. But like I said, I have a lot of friends that felt that they needed them. And even though it was against my better judgment, one I drove, to and from the clinic. Another one I hope financially support, because that's what a decent human being does. They support life. And, my friends don't have to have my, my values. I mean, they're not out like, doing crazy stuff, like Bitcoin schemes. But I do have standards, but, I don't impose mine on others either.
Right. Does an abortion at the early stage of pregnancy cause a living thing to die? Yes. Is that fully human? Yes. No, it's not fully human. It hasn't developed yet.
What is fully human? Is there a definition?
I don't know. I think he just means, does it have human DNA? And it's like, well, that's great, but your nails have human DNA. It doesn't mean that they're fully human. It's so weird. Like, it's just, he's just going, any cell equals baby. So it is an abortion, the intentional killing of human life? Yes. Is an abortion something a woman does to her body? No. The fetus, zygote, baby, we can add in their teen, adult, because they're all the same, is not part of her body, and thus the abortion does not happen to her body. It happens to the body of the baby, specifically it kills her baby. That is such absolute rubbish.
It doesn't happen to...
It's not a baby. It's not a baby. It's not a fully human. It's not. It's just not.
What do you mean it doesn't happen to the body of the mother? Like, it's her body. This is a medical procedure for the woman. I don't know. It's just a gross misunderstanding of the procedure. And
AJ,
I mean, just medical science in general.
Yeah.
Can you flick down a bit?
Me?
Yeah.
No, move. There.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's murder.
Can I get a definition of murder?
Is there a definition of murder?
What do you mean? His definition, or do you mean a normal?
No. I wouldn't. I'm way past what is normal.
I think this is the end of the article, this part, because it just repeats again. I don't know why it's formatted like weird. This. But
it's like thus pro-choice is pro-choice to murder an innocent living human being. Is that the definition? Like, does he understand what murder is?
I don't think so.
Let me give you the definition. the unlawful premeditated killing of one human being by another. So abortion is legal.
Legal.
So it doesn't match that definition.
Oh, hi, Dan. How you doing? Yeah. Well, we've got another one which is even worse. If you want to have a quick look at that one, this article that I've got.
I'll shut up this time.
No, that's okay.
Is it by the same person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're doing a bit of orange at the moment. It's our favorite person.
You would think that he'd maybe ask a medical doctor.
Maybe. So this is an article by the same person. Check out that title. Pro-choice is pro-rape. Yeah, you heard it first. Many of you probably saw the title of this post, thought I was going to argue that abortion exists so that rich and powerful men like many of those leftist casting couch Hollywood scumbags can destroy evidence of their sexual assault and thus protect themselves from being convicted of rape like they should be, or having to pay child support. But that is not my point today. So rather than saying, hey, I'm not making that point, no, it's just not today he's making that point. That is his point, but it's not today's point, which is just incredible.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all when I saw the title.
I've decided we should just accept all of the pro-choice jargon and see what happens. And what happens is we have a case for legalizing rape. Yes, no conflation here at all.
Real quick, did you say something to the effect that aborting on the premise that aborting... So Pete is saying aborting on the premise that having a baby will make one's depression worse is wrong. And I'm like, nobody said that abortion will make depression worse.
Yeah, no.
And he said Mark does. And I'm like, what?
Aborting on the premise that having a baby will make one's depression worse is wrong. No, I'm not saying that it will make one's depression worse. Do you know what postnatal depression is, P-Town?
Yeah, postpartum depression, or I guess that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's essentially the I mean,
same thing. Well, I don't know if you're talking the same thing.
I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that it can, and the fact that there is a actual, sort of medical condition that is depression that occurs after you've had a child says that it can happen.
Yeah, I know. There's no post-abortion depression, not to the point of not like postpartum. I've had postpartum, both pregnancies. And it really is like the pregnancy, like it's your chemicals and like your hormones are crazy levels. You don't know how, and every pregnancy is different. You don't know how it's going to affect you. Postpartum depression or, pregnancy-related depression, very, very common. Post-abortion depression is more like, Mark said earlier, having the blues or grieving. Grieving is not clinical depression like postpartum is. So, you can't make what he's saying is you can't make the argument that having an abortion will lead to mental illness, because we don't see that. What we see is sometimes having the baby will do that. We do not see that with abortion. So you're kind of out of whack there, or opposite there.
So Peter goes on to say aborting a baby because you don't want to become depressed is wrong. That's not what we're saying,
and that's
Peter.
not what we're saying. We're saying that you're wrong, that abortion leads to depression. It does not. Having a baby can. Nobody is saying it's a reason to have an abortion.
Nobody's saying that. There's a wide range of things that the reasons why it happens. You're basically trying to conflate every single instance of abortion into one thing to say, hey, this is why it happens. It's because people don't want to take responsibility. That's essentially your entire thing.
Yeah.
And it's so reductive and just sort of centering on one thing. What we're saying is that because there is a myriad of medical and psychological issues that pregnancy arises from, a woman should have the choice to choose whether she goes through that or not. like it amazes me how men can sit there and sort of just talk about how women should do this thing that they will never have to experience in their life, like ever. And how you can sit there and sort of say how you're basically telling them to go through this thing even when it has some horrible consequences sometimes. Yeah, that's not necessarily the case all the time. So you're sort of straw man saying it's necessarily the case. That's not what I'm saying, P-Town. But I'm saying that if there is a risk, and there is risk, people die in childbirth, you have the choice whether to take on that risk or not. If someone said, well, I'm going to force you to do something where you have like a 0.5% chance of dying, you would be in absolutely have the right to say, I don't want to take on that risk. That's what we're talking about here. Not your reductionist, well, you're just doing it because it's inconvenient. No, get out of here. That's not why people are doing it, P-Town.
Yeah, and nobody's saying that anyone should have an abortion.
Right.
We're saying it's none of our business what people who are not us do with not our babies. And we are saying that it should be open to a couple and the doctor for what's in their own interest. That's all we're saying. We're saying that politicians should stay out of it, and medical decisions should be, kept with medical professionals. That's all we're saying.
So, Orange Man begins with, to begin with, abortion is legalized murder. If it's legalized, it's not murder. That's such a stupid thing to say. I don't. Yeah, it's just such a stupid argument. So this isn't that big a stretch. Yeah, that's begging the question. You haven't shown that to be the case. But consider some of the popular pro-choice bumper sticker arguments. Because, when I go for a good argument, I always look at a bumper sticker, Maya. That's what I'm after. Like, keep your laws off my body. Okay, so if laws saying you can't use your body to harm another person are wrong, unacceptable, not sure what to call that. Clearly, we can't call it sin, so the religious dog whistle comes out already.
Sin.
Let's call it passe. Yeah, he's trying to say that people don't accept religion calling things a sin. Yeah, I don't know what a sin is and why I would care that you think something's a sin.
So wait a minute. You can't use your body to harm another, but abortions are often used when the fetus is inadvertently, harming the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care about that. I mean,
No, they don't.
again, I'm not even saying not all and evangelicals. Like a lot of people do think that miscarriages and things like that should be allowed. I can't say all of them, but many of them, really don't even care about that. And the law certainly does not, because if you look at the laws in the states in the U.S. that, like the way they're constructed, is not to preserve the life of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women have to wait, even though the baby is actively killing them. They have to wait until like its heartbeat goes away, or whether their life is like being shown in signs of danger. So they have to be on the brink of death. To that point, they can't. The doctors aren't allowed to use their medical expertise and say, okay, hey, let's prevent a bad situation from happening. They have to actually wait until the woman is on the brink of death to do anything at all about the pregnancy. But there's no distinction there. So it's just like, how is it wrong? How is that wrong to do that?
Yeah, I think you should just ignore P-Town's comments.
Oh, P-Town?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was actually talking about the article here.
Oh, I know.
It's just like,
in general.
Oh, yeah, I'm not even looking at P-Town. I've said my piece. And he said words. They were all words. I don't know if they should have been in the order they were in, but, he can say words.
The laws saying you can't use your body to harm another person. The whole point comes with that it's not a person, and B, you're basically saying that fetus or that embryo cannot use your body anymore. So you are in fact protecting yourself against the fetus, and I think that's what May was getting at. So you could look at it. A better analogy would be self-defense or castle doctrine. You're protecting yourself against something that inadvertently might be harming you, or you do not want them to be using your body. So this whole thing of saying, well, then rape's also okay. No, it's not. Because you have the right to bodily autonomy. You have the right to that bodily integrity to say, hey, you're not allowed to use my body for whatever reason.
It's self-defense.
Well, it is kind of comes under that same idea of bodily autonomy. If I don't want you to use my blood or use my organs to filter your you're missing kidneys and you want to use my organs, you should not have that power to do so, even if it saves your life. Even as a fully grown adult, to save your life, you don't have that right. Even if I'm your parent, you still don't have that right. So no, this is totally silly. It's a silly argument.
Yeah.
Let's say we decide that abortion is acceptable in cases where the mother is the victim of rape of incest. What are we saying? We're saying that if the baby's father has done something terrible, then we can kill the baby. No, we're not.
God.
It's such a terrible argument.
Something terrible. Yeah, that caused the baby to exist. It's just, this part is so dumb.
I don't even know how to start with that. I mean, the lack of empathy for one. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's, make her carry the baby of the person that, degraded and assaulted and raped. Yeah. Make her carry that.
The relationship is. It's her rapist.
Yeah. And Hovind has made this exact same argument.
Yeah. What if the mother's
it's not the baby. It's not the baby's fault that she was, and I'm like, well, you're not. Well, one, most states don't do anything to the rapist.
It's not her fault either.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know how the laws are in Australia, but in America, a child to a parent is kind of property. If the child does anything, the parent is responsible for it. If there's anything wrong with the child, the parent is responsible for it. You can't check out of parenthood. And I'm cool with that generally, except when you're being forced to be a parent. You have this woman that is being put in this horrible position, and you're like, oh, well, it's not the baby's fault. You have to love it. And that, it is an injustice to her, but it's probably a worse injustice to that child to have to be raised in a family that clearly doesn't want it. And we're talking about a number of different social issues that can arise from that. It's inhumane on so many levels.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I have to jump off, actually. I don't know if you're going to keep going or...
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to get through this and sort of, it's not that far from the end. I can kind of skip over a lot. I want to get to this one point. This is the point that I really wanted to get to. But if you got to go, take off. That's not a problem, AJ. I really appreciate you being here, man. It's been interesting.
I always always good making content with you, and I'm glad we got a little bit. This is a heavy topic, but I think it's important to talk about these things. So I'm glad that we decided to do it, and that Maya came on. I think it was a great idea. So
AJ, big fan. I've just recently been in your live streams. I've been looking at your content for years, right?
Yeah, it's been a little while now, but thank you.
It's been a wild ride.
All right, I'll see you.
See you, AJ. Take care. Thanks, mate. So what if the mother's life's in danger? Look at it. This is the one that I really want to pay attention. I mean, I can wrap it up. We've been going for over an hour and a half. But first off, I have never heard anyone present even a hypothetical situation where a baby had to be murdered to save a pregnant woman. If you can tell me how killing a baby could ever save a pregnant woman from dying, please let me know, because I am at a loss. Yeah. So the ones that I want to bring up was the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists that say abortion can be medically necessary, right? So they basically back it up. And this one in Ireland was a woman. She was a Indian national in
I
island. Yeah, because they're Roman Catholic, they will not allow abortion until the baby is dead.
Mhm.
Now, she requested an abortion on October 21, but they waited days for its heartbeat to stop, right? Because they wouldn't abort a live fetus. So this woman got septicemia from the baby still being in her, and
Mhm.
she died. She died.
Mhm.
So, you know, basically with this idiot saying, like, I can't find an example that's even hypothetical. This took me
What
like 2 minutes to
hypothetical?
find. This took me 2
You can't
minutes to
find.
find.
Oh my God. No, and this is what I'm assuming he's being honest. Assuming he's being honest.
Right.
You can't think of a hypothetical situation where a woman might need to abort a baby to save her life.
Right. Right.
Like it's just so crazy to you that like you can't even imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say one thing. Being pregnant, having a baby, giving birth is the most dangerous thing a woman naturally does. The most. Like, and I don't know, that statement really just pisses me off.
Women die in childbirth, and it's not like in modern medicine, it's not that huge a risk anymore, but it is a risk. And as I was saying earlier, you ought to have the right to take on that risk or not. That ought to be your right, and it should be a decision between you and your doctor. Because going into the pregnancy, you can't tell how dangerous it will be.
Right.
It's kind of like skydiving. Deaths don't happen very often, but they do happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't push people out of a plane because the death rate is low. And this woman, she is a clear example of where an abortion would have saved her life.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do it.
Yeah, because the baby was not viable. It was not viable, but it had a heartbeat.
Correct.
Which is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
It's so absurd to me. And I mean, when you think about it, like, it's just lack of. I mean, it just clearly hasn't looked into this at all.
No, absolutely not.
Dying in childbirth was insanely common. I mean, my goodness, it's like the premise of half of our like grim fairy tales. You know, the child had the wicked stepmother. Well, where was its mother? Nowhere to be seen. Did she just scamper off? She's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a chick, and you know, so I clearly don't care about my baby, so I'm just going to party over here now, leave the baby with the dad. No, it died. The woman died. We have an evil stepmother in like half of our fairy tales because childbearing, women dying in childbirth was so common that, you know, I mean, it just didn't even occur to people to put a mother into the story a lot of the time.
Right.
And didn't even think that it would be like, you know, today, like, you know, if you saw a movie today and a child was being raised without the mother, at some point in the movie, that would have to be explained. It's not normal normal. I mean, it is. I mean, it's common, but it's not uncommon for a father to raise his kids. But it's so out of the mainstream view that at some point within the frame of the book, the movie, whatever, it would have to be explained. And it wasn't even mentioned where their natural mother was.
Yeah.
And because it was that common.
Well, I think there's a case to be made that now it is like dying in childbirth is very, very small chance of that happening. But it's more the fact
smaller than it was. Certainly, modern medicine has come a long way, especially with the acknowledgement or the invention of germ theory. What do you call that? But I mean, it's still really common, especially for black women in America. It's insanely high, especially in the States.
That's got a disproportionate rate. Absolutely. And even if you don't take into consideration the death rate, maternal deaths in childbirth, there's also that it is hard on the woman's body. No matter which way you look at it, it makes changes in the body that can have lasting effects throughout the rest of their life. There is a number of problems that women can have after childbirth, but they sort of have this idea that because it's natural, it has to be good for you, and they just ignore any of the complications and post-pregnancy things that can occur. It's just, you should just suck it up because giving birth is your role in society, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what they truly believe. That's what women were created for. And, you should just have the baby. That's what God made you for. So just do it. And just no understanding of the science behind it, or like biological processes, or the dangers, any of it. There's, more women than not can get pregnant, may not need a doctor at all. And it's just nice to know that, somebody to tell them once a month that, hey, everything's fine, keep up the good work. But for far too many people, it doesn't go like that. And there are things that, are very dangerous, but just so routine that the doctor is kind of nonchalant about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, I need you to do this. It's important. I don't want you to worry. Worrying is very bad for the baby. New study just came out on that, I think last week or so. But, this is something that you need to do. Most mothers will just do the thing and everything will be fine. Like I didn't even know I was RH negative until I started giving blood when my youngest was like 5 or 6. And I, found out that they had given me the shot while when I went into the hospital. I had no idea it happened. Somebody was like, no, they would have had to. If you're RH negative, my children are RH positive, they would have known that going in. I have a lot of friends who are nurses, and I didn't realize that they test every woman for substance abuse. And they will call and have a social worker take your baby out. Or what's actually freakishly common is they will tell you that you can't have a vaginal birth because you have an STD. And then you have to make sure the father's out of the room so they don't start arguing, but you got to do what you got to do. There's just so many things that just get done that medical staff don't tell you. And, it's all for the benefit of a healthy delivery. And we take so many things for granted, which is, it's beautiful to be able to do that. And it's also kind of a shame that there are people who are misusing that.
Well, we take things for granted, but we can't eliminate the risk. Like we manage risks, we can't eliminate them. There's always there's risks in abortion. There's risks in keeping the pregnancy. There's risks to every decision along the way of a pregnancy. There's always risk there. It might not be significant risk, but it is risk nonetheless. So the whole idea is that we put the decisions to take these risks between the woman and her doctor, not anybody else. And you want to include the father in that, but at the end of the day, the person who's taking the risk, the husband is not taking that risk, right? They're not. They are an observer in that risk-taking process. No man has ever died during childbirth, right? Due to complications in childbirth. No man has ever died. I think I can categorically say that statement, kind of thing. So that's why it is the woman's decision along with the doctor, because she needs to be aware of the risks. That's where the doctor comes in, and then make an informed choice about what she needs to do about those risks. And I don't think anybody has a right to say, you have to take this risk with your life or your health or, what you want to do. I don't think anyone's got that right.
Yeah, and Brie, I think before you got here, we were talking about trans men due to a topic that, one of the questions that came up in the earlier.
Apologize, Brie.
And I think Mark is talking about cis men.
Yes, I was. I do apologize, Brie. I should have made that statement clear. Cis men, yes. But I might wrap it up there. It's been 2 hours, which I only planned to go for an hour and a half. So that was actually really good. I always go over.
Oh wow, has it been? Gosh, time always flies in live streams. I do appreciate you for inviting me in, even though I was a little snarky about it.
That's okay. No, look, I like to admit when I'm wrong or have made a mistake or overlooked something, and it certainly. Whoops, that's my Discord, which I'm showing there. So I think I might. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I do like to admit when I'm wrong or have done something wrong. And you're right. It was kind of just not considering the implications of what I was doing. So I want to get better at that kind of stuff, and I want to sort of acknowledge that, hey, yeah, it would have been better to get somebody who is more. It concerns them more than it does me, even though it does concern me a bit. Even just basic human rights concern me a bit, even if that's not my demographic. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So I do want to thank you for that. It certainly is eye-opening for me as well.
Yeah, and like I said, abortion. I mean, men should have a well-formed opinion. Well-formed opinion on abortion, and I love that men are passionate about it and taking out this and other women's issues. It does affect you. We kind of need you there by your sides when and it helps to have someone there to help with the opinion. But yeah, it is ultimately the woman's decision, because contrary to what the orange asshole was saying, this is something that's happening to our bodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. But thank you again, and thanks everybody in the live chat, guys.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate you coming on, especially at sort of 1 second's notice after dinner kind of thing. I really do appreciate it, and it did give us a lot more perspective on this. I really hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast as always. So I really want to thank you, Maya. So for those who don't know, I've been sort of very quiet lately. My hand has been playing up with RSI, but I should be back on the horse soon. Hopefully in the next couple of days, I should start because I code a lot, I type all the time, all the time. And this is the first time anything's ever played up for me, so I'm kind of a little bit nervous. But I've got anti-inflammatories, and it seems to be going okay. So, what I'm probably going to do is a live stream tomorrow night, I think, Eastern time. So it's 10:30. It's roughly 9:00 p.m. Eastern time there. Or are you in Eastern time?
I'm Eastern, yeah. It's 9:30.
Yeah, 9:30. So probably tomorrow night, I probably am going to be doing another stream and sort of going through some moral problems that I'm going to find from around the place. It should be fun. It should be humorous. It should be weird and wacky, because I'm going to a source which is sort of, should give a couple of really hilarious situations. So
not debating any trolls?
Sorry?
Not debating any trolls anytime soon?
Debating the what now?
Any trolls?
No. Are you talking about Jill? I wish he would go away. Like seriously, he's
Well, yeah,
just.
you've had a conversation with. I mean, I thought P Town was a troll. I really think he's just standard run of the mill evangelical now. And you know, you were getting on me about boxing everybody in. And I was like, I feel like I can do this with the evangelicals. And then he shows up and proves me right. So I'll hand that to him.
Yeah, maybe I was a little harsh with him today. It really irritates me.
Oh,
Well, we spoke about sort of the minimization of this too. Oh, they just
mm-hmm.
feel like it and stuff, and then he goes and does exactly what we were talking about. It's like,
exactly what
oh, that's irritating. But no, I'm not debating any trolls. I'm going to try and avoid the trolls. Oh, hi, Kata. How are you? Yeah, so
you had a conversation with Darth, and I think Jill and somebody else.
Well, at least Darth didn't follow me around. Like Jill's obsessed. He's obsessed with me.
Yeah.
It's really creepy. I'd be really worried if I was like in the same country as him or something. Because I mean, I did one debate, and of course, I move on to the next. You know, I just keep going to the next debate, and he's still talking about it and sort of trying to convince me how badly I got destroyed. And it's like, wow, well, you are obsessed. Well, you know. It's kind of sad in a way. Like, go on to the next one. Like, do your thing. But no. It's been great. I've had fun, and so tune in tomorrow night if you do want to see some funny stuff that I'm gonna do.
Awesome. But I will be here.
No worries. Well, if you feel like it, no compulsion. Do drop a like and subscribe if you do want to see more stuff like this. We'll be continuing onwards and upwards and doing some more things. Working on that inclusivity, thanks to Maya. Absolutely, you're 100% right. No, Maya, 100% right. You when you're right, I will acknowledge that, and it's really good that you pulled me up. So I'm very, very thankful, and to everybody, do be kind to yourself and do be kind to each other. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.